What if everything you've been told about the divine masculine awakening is missing the point? What if those grand cinematic moments of sudden clarity or unshakable confidence aren't the real markers at all? What if, instead of a roaring lion finally unleashed, the truest sign of this profound shift is something far quieter, far more subtle, a deep, resonant sigh within you, releasing an ancient burden you didn't even know you were carrying? That relentless pressure to perform, to prove, to be the unwavering rock, the fearless protector, the infallible provider. What if awakening begins the moment you realize that armor isn't strength, but a cage? A beautifully crafted, culturally sanctioned cage, yes, but a cage nonetheless, its weight settling into your bones with a familiar, exhausting ache. Think about it. That visceral weariness isn't just tiredness, it's the soul's rebellion against a script written by wounded generations. It's the friction of your authentic essence rubbing raw against the rigid plates of how a man should be. You've felt it, haven't you? The hollowness after the performance, the slight tremor beneath the stoic facade, the fleeting sense that this constant proving ground is a cosmic treadmill going nowhere profound. That subtle dissonance, that quiet yearning for something more real than dominance or detached control. That's not weakness, beautiful soul. That's the first, barely audible tremor of your divine masculine, beginning to stir from a centuries-long slumber. It's not about adding more layers of control or confidence. It's about feeling the profound courage to finally, gently begin taking the armor off. This awakening isn't heralded by trumpets, but by a profound inner recalibration, a shift so deep it often feels like gravity itself changing direction within you. Forget the flashy transformations. This is the slow, powerful turning of tectonic plates beneath the surface of your being. It's the quiet death of the need to be perceived as invulnerable, replaced by a dawning, almost unnerving sense of peace in simply being present. Not performing presence, inhabiting it. Imagine the energy you've spent for years, decades, holding up that facade, the mental gymnastics of maintaining the image, the emotional labor of suppressing anything deemed unmanly. Now, picture that vast reservoir of life force suddenly freed, redirected, flowing inward to nourish ground long parched by neglect. That's the power becoming available. It's not about becoming something new out there. It's about remembering something ancient and essential in here. It's the difference between polishing the armor until it blinds and discovering the warm, steady, unadorned strength of the living earth beneath your feet. This path isn't about reaching some external pinnacle of masculinity. It's about the sacred, often messy, work of dismantling the scaffolding to reveal the deep inner architecture of your authentic power. And the most compelling mystery, this quiet unraveling, this release of the old proving grounds, doesn't diminish your power. It reveals its true source. It transforms strength from something you assert into something you simply are. The ground of your being becomes firm, not because you're immovable like stone, but because you're deeply rooted like an ancient tree, flexible yet unshakable. The need to dominate conversations evaporates, replaced by a newfound capacity for deep, receptive listening that feels less like passivity and more like potent magnetic presence. The frantic drive to fix everything gives way to the wisdom of holding sacred space, allowing life and especially the divine feminine mirror, to unfold with its own intelligence. This isn't weakness. It's strength distilled to its purest, most potent essence. It's the power found not in the roar, but in the resonant silence that holds the universe together. So if you're sensing that quiet tremor within, that subtle shift away from the exhausting performance, take heart. This isn't the absence of your power. This is its long-awaited homecoming. And the deepest secret waiting to be uncovered, this inner revolution, this sacred dismantling, is the very foundation upon which a love beyond fantasy, a true, resonant, co-creative union, can finally, naturally bloom, ready to discover what true power looks like when it finally comes home. Let's talk about the moment the armor really starts to crack, not with a dramatic clang, but with a sigh so deep it feels like it comes from the bedrock of your soul. You know the drill, right? That relentless, internal pressure cooker hissing, prove yourself, be stronger, fix it, dominate, achieve, show them, never flinch. It's exhausting. It's like wearing a suit of lead plates to a marathon, impressive for about 5 seconds, then utterly crushing. That's the old masculine paradigm running on fumes, fueled by ancient wounds screaming, "You are not enough unless you do, unless you win, unless you control." And then the hush begins. It's not weakness. It's not surrender in the defeatist sense. It's a profound inner recalibration. Imagine standing in a noisy, crowded bazaar, the shouts of vendors, your ego, the clanging pans, societal expectations, the jostling bodies, fears. Suddenly, a deep, resonant bell tolls once, somewhere unseen, just bong. And for a suspended breath, everything stops. The chatter dims, the frantic energy stills. That's the quieting of the proving impulse. It's the divine masculine within you recognizing the sheer, unsustainable waste of energy spent performing adequacy for an audience that was mostly in your own head anyway. You start to feel grounded, not like a mountain pretending to be immovable, but like a deeply rooted oak tree, present, unshakable, drawing strength from a source far deeper than anyone's applause. The need to declare your strength evaporates because you simply inhabit it. It becomes a quiet hum, a palpable frequency others feel as unwavering stability, not a boastful shout. You stop flexing your spiritual biceps. You just are. And strangely, paradoxically, that's when people truly start to see you. Now, here's where the magic gets interesting, and honestly, a bit counterintuitive for anyone raised on action hero masculinity. In that sacred space carved out by the quieting, something astonishing blooms. Receptivity, not passivity, not indifference, not the dreaded nice guy fawning. True receptivity, deep, active, courageous listening. Think about it. When you're constantly broadcasting your own signal, your opinions, your solutions, your defenses, your achievements, how can you possibly tune into anything else? It's like trying to hear a whisper while standing next to a jet engine. The awakened divine masculine turns down his own internal broadcast. He stops formulating his rebuttal while the other person is still speaking. He learns the radical art of receiving information, energy, emotion, intuition, the subtle nudges of the universe itself. This is strength redefined. It takes immense fortitude to not jump in and fix your partner's bad day immediately, but instead to simply hold space, listen without judgment, and trust her innate wisdom to navigate her own storm. It takes warrior-level courage to open yourself to truly hearing feedback that might sting the ego, or to receive intuitive guidance that contradicts your logical plan. This receptivity isn't about being a doormat. It's about becoming a sacred vessel. It's the shift from the frantic knight charging at windmills to the grounded king in his council chamber, listening to his advisors, his intuition, his partner, his spirit, before discerning wise action. It's understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to be a deep, calm pool of presence that reflects truth back without distortion. You become less of a bulldozer and more of a tuning fork, resonating with the deeper frequencies of connection and understanding. You learn to listen through the words to the heartbeat beneath. You learn to hear the silence between the notes, and you discover, perhaps to your own surprise, that in this deep receiving, you are more potent, not less. Solutions arise with less effort, connections deepen, synchronicities wink at you from unexpected corners. Why? Because you've finally stopped shouting over the music of the universe and started dancing to it. So, beautiful soul, if you find yourself exhausted by the constant inner pressure to be more, do more, prove more, feeling a strange, unfamiliar peace in simply being present without an agenda, if you catching yourself actually listening deeply, patiently, without mentally rehearsing your response, if you discovering intuitive nudges guiding you more than forceful willpower, if you finding strength not in dominating a conversation, but in the quiet space you hold within it, then take heart. That sacred hush, that profound shift from proving to receiving, that's not the absence of your power. That's the unmistakable sound of your divine masculine, finally waking up, stretching its wings, and discovering its true strength lies not in the roar, but in the resonant silence that holds everything together. It's the beginning of a whole new way of being powerful in this world. And you know what the truly fascinating part is? This quiet, receptive strength is precisely what creates the magnetic field that draws profound connection and effortless flow. But that's a story for the next sign. Ready to see how this awakened presence reshapes your very concept of responsibility? Let's get real for a moment. Remember those old spy movies? The ones where the brilliant analyst, usually buried in papers, glasses perched on his nose, muttering probabilities, clashes endlessly with the rogue field agent, all gut instinct, risky moves, and flashes of intuition. Yeah, for most of your life, that's probably what it felt like inside your own head. Your logical mind. Let's call him the analyst, meticulously mapping the terrain, calculating risks, demanding blueprints, terrified of chaos. And then her, your emotional, intuitive core, the field agent, a whirlwind of feeling, sudden knowings, inexplicable urges, whispering warnings, or invitations from the shadows where the analyst's flashlight doesn't reach. They've been at war, haven't they? Or, at best, locked in an uneasy truce where one constantly overrules the other, leaving you feeling either rigidly controlled or chaotically unmoored. You've likely swung between the poles, armored stoicism that feels safe but deadening, or emotional surges that leave you feeling exposed and rudderless. But here's the profound shift. the unmistakable rumble of your divine masculine awakening. The war ends, not with a victor, but with a truce that blossoms into a breathtaking partnership. It's the moment emotional fluidity stops being a threat and becomes a trusted language, while intuitive alignment stops feeling like a reckless gamble and becomes your most sophisticated navigation system. Imagine it. The analyst finally looks up from his spreadsheets, sighs, takes off his glasses, and actually listens to the field agent's wild, seemingly nonsensical report from the frontier of your soul. And the field agent, instead of just kicking down doors, learns to present her intel clearly, calmly, showing how her hunch actually connects the dots the analyst missed. This isn't about becoming more emotional in a weepy, uncontrolled way. It's about mastering the conscious flow of feeling. Think of it like learning a complex, beautiful martial art for your inner world. You learn to feel the full spectrum, the sharp sting of anger, the warm swell of joy, the deep ache of grief, the quiet hum of peace, not as enemies to suppress or explosions to unleash, but as vital data, as energetic currents carrying crucial information about your truth, your boundaries, your alignment. You stop fearing the wave, you learn to surf it. You discover that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's conscious, chosen openness. It's the courage to say, "This hurts," without collapsing, or "I'm scared," without retreating. You express tenderness without feeling emasculated, grief without drowning in it. It's fluidity with discernment. You're no longer a stone statue or a puddle. You're a river, powerful, adaptable, clear, moving with purpose. And here's where the magic truly deepens, where logic doesn't get dethroned, but finally learns the steps to a more elegant dance. Your decision-making center undergoes a radical upgrade. It moves from the cramped, fluorescent-lit office of pure linear logic to a sun-drenched, open-plan space where the analyst and the field agent co-create. Intuitive alignment becomes your default operating system. It's the quiet, undeniable pull in your gut, the sudden clarity in your heart space, the synchronicity that winks at you like a cosmic inside joke. It's not rejecting logic, it's informing it, elevating it. That spreadsheet is still open, but now it's overlaid with heat maps generated by your soul's GPS. You start making choices based on resonance. Does this job, this relationship, this path feel deeply right, aligned, expansive, even if the numbers aren't perfect? Does it make your spirit hum rather than just your bank account? You begin to trust those inexplicable nudges, to call someone, to take a different route, to walk away from a sure thing that feels soul-crushingly wrong. It's logic infused with soul light. It's recognizing that the heart isn't illogical. It speaks a different, often more profound language. It's like swapping a detailed roadmap for a compass attuned to your true north combined with the map. The map tells you how, the compass tells you why and where you truly need to go. So, if you catch yourself feeling a complex emotion and not immediately stuffing it down or letting it hijack you, but observing it, learning from it, if you're making a choice because it resonates deeply, even if the logical argument isn't airtight, and finding it works out better than expected. If you're noticing synchronicities and actually trusting them as guidance, not dismissing them as coincidence. If you're experiencing a gut feeling about a person or situation and giving it equal weight to the pros-cons list. If you finding a strange new calm in uncertainty, trusting your internal compass even when the external map is blurry, then celebrate, beautiful soul. This isn't just getting in touch with your feelings. This is the divine masculine within you mastering the ultimate inner technology, becoming a sovereign conductor of both reason and resonance, logic and light. You're no longer trapped in the binary of stone or storm. You're becoming the wise architect of your inner world, building with both steel and starlight. And the most potent part? This deep inner harmony, this marriage of feeling and knowing, doesn't just transform you, it radiates out, creating a magnetic field of authentic presence that shifts everything around you. But how? Well, that leads us to the surprising power of surrender. Imagine this. You're sitting in a darkened movie theater, utterly engrossed. On the screen, your life is playing out, the latest dramatic installment of the epic saga of you. There's the hero, you, obviously, facing down a frustrating coworker, wrestling with old insecurities, triggered by a partner's offhand comment, maybe replaying that familiar argument in your head again. The soundtrack swells with your internal monologue. Why does this always happen? They're wrong. I need to fix this. This proves I'm not good enough. You're leaning forward, fists clenched, popcorn forgotten. You're in it, totally identified. The character's pain is your pain. Their defense is your shield. The story feels utterly, inescapably real. That's the default mode, isn't it? Living life trapped on the screen, believing you are the character reacting to every plot twist. But the awakening of the divine masculine brings a profound, almost imperceptible shift. It's like a quiet whisper in the midst of the cinematic chaos. Just, you know you don't have to stay in the audience seat, right? There's a better view. And slowly, almost hesitantly, you get up. You walk up the dimly lit aisle, past the rows of empty seats, symbolizing old, discarded identities, perhaps. You push through the heavy door marked private, and you find yourself in the projection booth. This is the birth of witness consciousness. Suddenly, you're not just in the movie. You're observing it from a place of quiet awareness. You see the beam of light projecting the images onto the screen. You see the reels turning. You see the mechanism. And crucially, you realize you are neither solely the character on the screen, nor simply the observer in the booth. You are the source of the light, the holder of the film, and the awareness encompassing it all. This isn't dissociation. It's the ultimate association with your true self. Let's break down this revolution because it's deceptively simple, yet utterly transformative. Before awakening, when that old insecurity rises like a familiar monster in your mental movie, see, you'll never be successful, loved, and enough. You likely became the hero battling the monster. Fight, flight, freeze, pure reaction. Your entire nervous system would light up. Cortisol would flood your veins. Words might be spat out defensively, or walls slammed up internally. You were the drama. Now, from the projection booth, you see the monster appear. You notice the feeling of insecurity, the tightness in the chest, the heat in the face, the frantic thoughts scrambling like ants. But here's the miracle. You don't become the feeling. You don't become the frantic thought. You simply observe it. Ah, you note with a curious detachment, there's the old not enough story playing again. Interesting. Look how my body reacts. Notice the familiar script starting double quotes. It's like watching a storm cloud roll across the valley from the solidity of the mountain. The storm is real, it has energy, it might even rain on the valley below, your emotional landscape. But you are not the storm. You are the mountain, vast, unmoved, deeply rooted in something older and more stable than the passing weather. This noticing is the superpower of the awakened divine masculine. It creates a sacred pause between the stimulus, your partner's comment, the work challenge, the internal critic's jab, and your response. In that pause, which might only be a fraction of a second initially, but grows with practice, lies your freedom. It's the space where conditioned reactions die and conscious choices are born. Instead of the knee-jerk defensiveness, "No, you're the problem," you might find yourself taking a breath, acknowledging the feeling, that triggered something in me, and then responding from a place of clarity and integrity, not fear or wounded pride. Instead of being hijacked by anger, you feel its heat, but choose if and how to express it constructively. You see the urge to retreat or dominate arise, but you don't automatically obey it. You become the wise director of your inner cast, not a puppet jerked around by the loudest actor on stage. Think of it as upgrading from being a leaf tossed in a hurricane to being the tree with deep roots. You feel the wind, you bend, but your core remains unbroken. You stop wrestling with your shadows and start illuminating them with the steady beam of your awareness. Why is this so crucial for the twin flame journey, and frankly, for life? Because most of our suffering comes from misidentification. We believe the angry thought is us. The fearful feeling defines us. The limiting story is our reality. We project our unresolved wounds onto our partners, especially that mirror soul, the twin flame, blaming them for triggering storms that were already brewing within our own inner landscape. Witness consciousness dissolves this illusion. When you can observe your own jealousy, neediness, fear of abandonment, or control issues without being consumed by them, you stop blaming your twin flame or anyone else for making you feel that way. You take radical responsibility for your inner weather. You see the projection mechanism itself, how you cast your own inner film onto the screen of your relationship. That is the foundation of true intimacy and conscious co-creation. It stops the toxic dance of blame and reaction. It allows you to meet your twin flame and yourself, not from the tangled mess of your unresolved scripts, but from the clear, spacious awareness of the projection booth. You relate to their triggers and patterns not as personal attacks, but as their movie playing out, allowing you to hold space instead of taking the bait. It transforms conflict from a battlefield into a sacred workshop for mutual healing. So, beautiful soul, if you start noticing a subtle inner distance opening up during emotional reactions, like part of you is calmly watching the storm rage, if you catching old, critical thoughts, you're such an idiot, and not automatically believing them, but just noticing them pass by like clouds. If you feeling triggered but pausing before reacting, creating space to choose a different response. If you observing your own patterns like defensiveness, withdrawal, people-pleasing, with a sense of curiosity rather than shame or helplessness. If you a growing sense that your feelings and thoughts are experiences you have, not the absolute definition of who you are. Then honor this profound shift. This witness consciousness isn't cold detachment. It's the warm, luminous embrace of your own deepest self. It's the divine masculine within you claiming its rightful seat as the calm, aware director of your inner universe. You're no longer lost in the drama. You're learning the art of conscious presence. You're realizing the screen is just a screen, the story is just a story, and the light of your awareness is eternal. And the most liberating truth whispered from the booth: when you truly master this observer stance, you stop fearing your own shadow and begin to wonder what breathtaking masterpiece your soul might project onto the screen next. But what fuels that creation? That leads us to the surprising power of generative energy. Let's shatter a myth, shall we? The one they sell you wrapped in glitter and longing. That finding your twin flame is like finding your missing half. That resonant click, the cosmic sigh of relief. Finally, you're complete. Oh, the sweet agony of that fantasy. It feels so romantically tragic, like a celestial scavenger hunt where your happiness depends entirely on locating one specific, elusive star in an infinite galaxy. Exhausting, isn't it? And honestly, a setup for profound disillusionment. Because here's the radical, counterintuitive truth whispered on the wind of true divine masculine awakening. Deep inner union isn't the prelude to finding your twin flame. It's the prerequisite for experiencing the union in its sacred, sustainable form. It's the moment you realize, with a shock that feels like coming home, you were never broken to begin with. Imagine this. You've spent years, maybe lifetimes, carrying a beautiful, ornate, yet perpetually empty chalice. You call it your love cup. You wander the world, holding it out, hoping someone, somewhere, will finally fill it. Partners come, pour a little in, affection, validation, security, but it always seems to leak out the bottom. The chalice remains stubbornly, achingly empty. The twin flame concept, it felt like the ultimate promise. This one, this specific soul, holds the exact magical elixir that will finally fill your cup to the brim forever. The pressure, the desperate seeking, the devastation when they seem to withhold the very essence you need to feel whole. You become a cosmic beggar, your worth contingent on their presence, their attention, their love. But the awakened divine masculine undergoes a profound alchemy. It's not about finding the elixir outside. It's about discovering, deep within your own core, an inexhaustible wellspring, a source of pure, radiant acceptance, unconditional love, and inherent worthiness that bubbles up from the bedrock of your being. You look down at that ornate chalice, and you gently set it aside. You realize you don't need a cup to hold something external. You are the vessel, and you are already full. This is deep inner union, the sacred marriage within you of your own divine masculine and divine feminine energies. The dynamic tension between action and receptivity, logic and intuition, strength and tenderness, structure and flow, harmonized, balanced, integrated, not battling, but dancing a slow, elegant waltz as within the sanctuary of your own soul. You become a self-sustaining ecosystem of love. You stop needing your twin flame to complete you. You realize you are already inherently, gloriously complete. This isn't spiritual bypassing or cold independence. It's the warm, vibrant reality of sovereign wholeness. Think of it like the sun. Does the sun need the moon to shine? Does its radiance diminish when the moon isn't visible? The sun is light. It generates its own brilliance from its core fusion. It simply is, in its full, magnificent power. The moon reflects that light beautifully, creating a dance of shadows and illumination on Earth. A relationship, yes, a profound connection. But the sun's essence, its very being, is utterly independent of the moon's presence. When you achieve deep inner union, you become that sun. Your light, your love, your sense of worth, your stability, they emanate from within. Your twin flame then becomes the moon, a beautiful, resonant reflection of that inner light, a partner in a celestial dance, not the source of your power or the filler of your void. You relate to them from a place of overflow, not deficit. You choose union, you don't crave it like oxygen. How does this feel in the messy, glorious reality of life? The frantic, clawing need for contact evaporates. The terror of separation loses its sting because you know your wholeness isn't contingent on their proximity. You stop interpreting their silence as abandonment and start trusting the divine choreography. For them, for you. Arguments lose their life or death intensity because your sense of self isn't hanging in the balance. You can love them fiercely, freely, without the suffocating weight of expectation that they must be or do anything to make you happy or complete. You celebrate their journey, even when it diverges from yours momentarily, because you trust your own inner compass implicitly. You hold space for their shadows without collapsing into your own. You offer love not as a desperate plea for reciprocation, but as a natural emanation of your own fullness. It's liberation. It's power. It's the foundation for a love that is truly unconditional, because it starts with the unconditional acceptance of yourself. So, beautiful soul, if you feeling a deep, unshakable peace, regardless of your twin flame's current presence or behavior, if you releasing the exhausting need to constantly figure out the connection or force an outcome, if you discovering your joy, purpose, and validation flourishing independently of the relationship, if you loving them deeply but without the sharp edge of attachment that feels like life support, if you trusting the journey implicitly, even in the unknown, because your inner sanctuary is secure, if you recognizing that union when it manifests physically will be a joyful co-creation, not a desperate rescue mission, then stand tall in this profound realization. This deep inner union isn't the end of the journey. It's the solid ground from which true miraculous co-creation can finally blossom. You've stopped seeking the moon to validate your light. You've remembered you are the sun. The chalice is empty because you've outgrown it. You drink now from the infinite wellspring within. And the most magnetic part? This radiant inner wholeness, this sun-like sovereignty, is the very frequency that effortlessly draws harmonious union into your reality. But how does this grounded, integrated light translate into action in the world? That's where the quiet power of generative energy comes in. So here you stand, beautiful soul, not at some glittering finish line draped in celestial banners, but on a quiet, sun-dappled threshold you didn't even realize you'd been building with every conscious breath, every surrendered expectation, every moment of choosing presence over panic. Look back, just for a heartbeat. See that winding path? the one littered with discarded armor, the need to prove, the frantic fixing, the stoic masks, the desperate clutching at a half-completion myth. You walked it. You felt every stone, weathered every storm that raged within when the mirror soul reflected shadows you weren't ready to own. You didn't just walk it, you alchemized it, transformed leaden wounds into golden wisdom. That path, it wasn't leading you to your twin flame. It was leading you home, to yourself. This awakening, this profound integration of your divine masculine isn't about finally getting the relationship. It's about realizing you've already become the relationship, the one that matters most, the sacred covenant between every facet of your own being. Think of it like mastering the instrument before joining the orchestra. You've tuned your strings, the quiet strength, the fluid feeling, the witnessing presence, the inner sun blazing with wholeness. You've learned the scales of sovereignty, the frantic yearning for that one specific note from another to make your song complete. It's dissolved into a profound, peaceful knowing. Your song is already whole. It always was. You just forgot how to hear its inherent harmony beneath the static of seeking. What blooms from this ground of inner union isn't dependency, but a breathtaking kind of magnetic presence. It's the quiet hum of a tuning fork struck true, resonating at a frequency that doesn't demand its mirror, but effortlessly attracts it. You stop straining to hear an echo across the void. You become the clear note that naturally draws its harmonic match. The old, exhausting dance of chase and retreat, it loses its rhythm. The agonizing runner-chaser dynamic, it transforms when both realize there's nowhere left to run from and nothing essential to chase after. You stand, rooted, complete, radiating a kind of calm authority that doesn't command but invites. It whispers to the universe, and crucially, to the soul woven with yours. I am here, I am whole, I am ready, not needing, but open to the miracle of co-creation. This isn't passivity, it's potent, grounded being. It's the mountain that shapes the wind, not by fighting it, but by its immovable presence. The most beautiful paradox, in releasing the need for union to complete you, you become the perfect vessel for its highest expression. Union ceases to be a desperate rescue mission or a romantic trophy. It becomes a joyful exploration, a sacred experiment in what two self-sustained suns can illuminate together. Imagine two master weavers, each already possessing the full skill and vision to create stunning tapestries alone. When they choose to sit at the same loom, they don't need each other's thread to start. They combine their threads to create patterns, textures, and colors impossible for one alone. That's the co-creation born from wholeness. It's not about filling gaps, it's about amplifying light. Conflict loses its fangs because your core stability isn't threatened. Separation loses its terror because your inner sanctuary remains intact. Love flows not as a plea, but as an offering from an overflowing well. So take a deep breath here on this threshold. Feel the solidity beneath your feet, the ground of your own hard-won wholeness. The frantic seeking has stilled. The cosmic scavenger hunt is over. You weren't finding a missing piece. You were remembering your inherent design. You hold the compass now, calibrated not to an external star, but to the true north pulsing within your own chest. The journey hasn't ended. It's simply shifted from seeking completion out there to exploring the infinite creative potential that blooms from in here. This path wasn't about reaching a destination labeled twin flame union. It was always about becoming the kind of being for whom sacred union is the natural, effortless flowering of an inner garden already lush and thriving. You are that being right now, not when the stars align just so, or when they finally get it. Now, the divine masculine within you isn't awakening for the union. It's awakening as the foundation of the union. You are the mountain. You are the sun. You are the weaver at your own loom. Rest in that. Trust that. Embody that. And the most thrilling part of standing on this solid ground, it's the perfect launch pad for the real adventure, discovering what breathtaking landscapes your wholeness, radiating outwards, will effortlessly begin to shape within your world. And within the shared field of a love that no longer completes, but celebrates. Ready to see what that magnetic field attracts